The eldest of four brothers, Williams grew up in Blackwood, where he lived with both parents until they divorced when he was aged 10. His life spiraled into a world of drug use and violence. At the age of 11, he started smoking cannabis. 2 years later, he was expelled from school for fighting, and by the age of 15, he had dropped out of the school system altogether. Despite seeking help for his drug abuse as a teenager, he failed to control his habit, and the path of prolific offending followed, resulting in his first custodial sentence in the Young Offenders Institute at the age of 15. He was first referred to mental health services in April 1997 after being charged with burglary and attempted theft. His admission to the Mental Health Institute was a short one, as he broke the drug-free policy and left after being found using cannabis just 2.5 hours after being admitted. His criminal activity and drug use continued as he spent time in and out of jail. In total, he notched up 26 convictions for 78 offenses, including assault, wounding with intent, drugs and weapons offenses. 41 of his crimes resulted in juvenile custodial sentences, while 14 others saw him spend time in and out of adult prisons. His persistent drug use had led to negative psychological and psychiatric effects. In 2004, he was diagnosed with schizophrenia and was admitted into a psychiatric unit under the Mental Health Act. He spent 5 weeks at the unit until his discharge into care under the Caerphilly-based community mental health team. In February 2005, yet again he was jailed, this time for 5 years for burglary, theft, and wounding offenses. Further burglary offenses led to another jail term in 2009. On release, he was referred to a community psychiatric nurse, but just 1 year later, the sessions had ended because he had not shown any signs of a psychotic illness. During later prison stays, he was prescribed medication after experiencing mental health issues including hearing voices, having hallucinations, and paranoid ideas. His prescription was eventually stopped in 2014 after an absence of reported psychotic symptoms, and he was reported as functioning well, holding down a job as a prison barber before his release in October of the same year. His behavior in prison in the run-up to his release was described as pleasant, polite, and with a high level of functioning. Having served his full 27-month sentence, he was released from HMP Park in 2013 without the statutory need for supervision. This was done on the agreement he would contact his GP if any mental health problems arose. He was offered voluntary drugs misuse, employment, and housing support upon release, but refused on the grounds that he had had enough of police and probation over the years. With nowhere to live, he was classed as homeless, and he tried to get accommodation in Newport to be near his father. However, he was unsuccessful and given a room at the CRA Arms Hotel, which had been used as emergency bed and breakfast since 2008. In the early hours of November 6, 2014, just a fortnight after he was released from prison, the owner of the hotel where Williams was staying called the police saying, "A man has put a screwdriver through a woman's face and he is eating her face." The woman laying on the floor was a 22-year-old named Keris Yem. Keris met Matthew Williams during a night out in Blackwood carefully, and the pair developed a flirty relationship shortly after. She had been in a controlling relationship for 2 years with a man named Jay. She finally ended the relationship with Jay and moved back to her family home before her 21st birthday. There, she lived with her young sister named Shannon, her older brother, and her mom named Paula. Her distraught ex made an attempt on his own life by setting fire to his flat. In January 2014, he was jailed for arson. Keris and Matthew kept in touch before meeting up again and spending more time together. They were acting like boyfriend and girlfriend. Jay knew Matthew from prison and wanted Keris to stay away from him. On the 5th of November, a friend of Matthew picked up Keris from her home in the afternoon, and the three of them had driven to Blackwood. They went to a friend's house and spent the day at the house drinking lager and smoking cannabis. Paula was expecting Keris back home that night, but instead, Keris and Matthew went back to his place at around 11 p.m. Keris had texted her mom a few times telling her that she was on her way home, but it got later and later, still she didn't show up. The last text to her mom was around midnight, saying sorry. At approximately 1:07 a.m., other residents of the hotel heard screaming coming from Matthew's room. Matthew lunged at Keris with a screwdriver, stabbing her several times in the neck and face. As Matthew attacked Keris, hotel landlady Mandy Miles opened the door to where Matthews was staying after she heard screams. She found Williams hunched over Keris's body, stabbing her with a screwdriver. Williams was covered in blood and he was growling. She quickly closed the door and called the police. During the call, she said, quote unquote, "He's shoving a screwdriver in her face. He's actually chewing her face." There were injuries to both eyes and one was removed. Additionally, she sustained blows and bites to her nose, ears, and mouth. Both of her facial arteries were severed, which likely caused her to rapidly lose blood and consciousness. The screams from the room attracted attention from motel guests, who opened the door 5 minutes before police arrived. Residents described hearing screaming coming from his first-floor bedroom at around 1:10 a.m. Everyone who saw Williams said he looked possessed. Police arrived at around 1:35 a.m. and used force to restrain Matthew. He continued to be aggressive and uncontrollable until he was finally subdued by police, who tasered him 4 times in an attempt to stop him. He stopped breathing while being carried to an ambulance. Despite attempts to resuscitate him, he was pronounced dead at 2:18 a.m. from cardiac arrest. Hotel owner Mandy Mouse later described the scene as a bloodbath and like something from a horror movie. A postmortem examination on Karris recorded a provisional cause of death as sharp force trauma to the face and neck. A jury ruled Karris was unlawfully killed and that Hakelia Williams died as a result of a sudden, unexpected death from a combination of drug use and the struggle against restraint.